Hello, everyone. I'm Quinn Wisson from Vertical Measures, and I'm here hosting VM's monthly webinar series. Today's webinar is titled The PPC Lead Lifecycle and How to Increase Revenue by 21%. It will be presented by our very own Keegan Brown. He's a digital advertising here at Vertical Measures, and he works on high-volume PPC ad campaigns for our clients. He develops, manages, and optimizes search engine marketing keywords, ads, and handles bid management to maximize return on spend. He's got some really good case studies to share with us today. Before we get started and I hand over the presentation, I have a couple of housekeeping items. Today's webinar will be available for viewing by tomorrow, and I will go ahead and send out an email to everyone who's registered so you can review the recording and also the slides. We'll also be happy to answer any of your questions. So if you take a peek at your GoToWebinar interface, you'll see a little question applet, and that's where you can send anything you'd like me to ask Keegan at the end of his presentation. Also, if you prefer to tweet along with us and ask questions that way, feel free. Use the hashtag VMWebinar, and I'll be following along during the slides. If you have any technical problems, either let me know or go ahead and just sign off and sign back on, and usually that fixes the issue. So I think those are all of my notes, and I will go ahead and hand it off to our presenter, Keegan Brown.
Thank you, Quinn, and thank you everyone for joining us. I'm excited to be here today and hope to provide you with some good takeaways to help improve your paid efforts. As Quinn said, I'm a digital advertising analyst here at Vertical Measures. And today I wanted to talk to you about something that is one of the most important part of your PPC campaigns. And that's tracking your leads through the life cycle and optimizing each step. So whether you're a business owner trying to be more profitable, or you're working on a PPC campaign and trying to reach your client's goals, I hope I can give you some actionable items to implement and improve your ROI. Today we'll be covering this list, starting with the life cycle of a lead and why it's important. Then we'll be covering some metrics that you should know whether you are the director of a marketing of your organization and tasked with increasing ROI, or you're just a small business owner and having a tough time determining which of your online channels is profitable and which are not. Next, to know these metrics, you're going to need to know how to track a PPC lead through the life cycle. We will cover a few ways that you can do that, whether you have a high-end CRM or just use spreadsheets to keep track of your leads. But tracking your leads is just half the job. We will then cover how to analyze leads and provide some ideas of segmentations to optimize. Finally, we will end with a real-world case study of how we are working with one of our clients to increase their revenue by 21% by analyzing their leads across the entire PPC lead lifecycle. So as I said, we'll start with the lifecycle of a PPC lead and the importance of it. At the very least, you'll be able to determine a more accurate ROI, which allows you to make business decisions regarding your marketing spend. Next is for accurate projections. So often businesses have a difficult time accurately projecting growth or revenue for a specific channel. Proper tracking can alleviate that stress as well as solve resources issues down the road. Then when we talk about how to analyze your lead data, you'll see how you can better optimize your lead lifecycle and better allocate your marketing budgets. Lastly, you can learn about your business's strengths and weaknesses such as messaging, sales team performance, and processes. So to begin, here's the basic PPC lifecycle of an e-commerce site. We look at, this is sort of our approach here at Vertical Measures and how you can optimize at every level from the search query all the way to the purchase by targeting keywords that are included in qualified search queries, then creating well-written ad copy, including benefits and a clear call to action. And then from there, the landing page should include messaging that is relevant across all the previous steps and should be optimized to allow for a simple conversion to take place. But today, we're going to be mainly focused on tracking leads from your website to offline in your sales process and what happens after someone becomes a lead. So we're really focused on lead generation today, but a lot of the analyzation of your leads and your data is going to be pretty similar between e-commerce and lead generation. So the same optimization applied to the steps we talked about on the previous slide, but it can be based on what happens when visitors fill out the form, sees the thank you page, and is then reached out by your sales team. Properly tracking leads is especially important for businesses with a longer sales cycle. For example, the lead life cycle or student journey for a higher education organization may be more than a year from the first time they visited your site. This is just an example of some of the high-level interactions a college may look at in the student's journey. The student's journey may start with, maybe a free information packet of the school to learn more about that school and the location. Then, after a few, they turn in an application for the school, and then after 4 months or so, the student has been accepted and maybe attends a tour of that school or a freshman orientation. And then after the entire life cycle of, could be 8 months, it could be 6, or it could be, like I said, over a year, the student finally pays tuition. This can take a long time to gather enough data to really learn something from it and should be tracked as soon as possible. So now we're going to talk about some of the metrics that you should know from your PPC campaigns. So these metrics can give you a very high-level view of the performance and the health of your account. As a decision maker in your organization, these are the metrics you either need to know to create realistic goals or just to determine if your PPC is currently profitable. So first there's cost per lead, and then there's close rate for those leads. Knowing your close rate will allow you to make accurate assumptions when creating goals. The break-even point per lead is great to know the highest cost per lead you can pay to break even. And then the customer lifetime value is a metric that takes more work than the rest and usually takes a longer period of time to be able to define. But once you have an accurate number, you will have a defined value of every new customer going forward. And lastly, and probably one of the most important, is return on ad spend, or your ROI. Now I'll be going through these formulas and giving examples. Just note that these are some of the most basic ways you can calculate these metrics, as there may be several other factors to be considered in your business. And I also just want to warn you up front, I will be going over these formulas, and while it is important to understand the formula, try not to get too caught up in the exact numbers, as it's more important to understand the concept and the importance. So the first one is cost per lead, and that's important for you to know so you can judge how much it costs to acquire a new lead. This is calculated by taking your total ad spend divided by your number of leads. For example, your business had spent $26,000 in ad spend last month and generated 162 leads. Your cost per lead is going to be about $160.49. This should be pretty easy to pull if you're tracking conversions in your advertising platform like Bing or AdWords or something like Facebook. The next metric you should know is close rate for your PPC leads. This often requires some cross-team collaboration between marketing and sales, but it's important to know when creating realistic goals for cost per lead and your return on ad spend. The formula is the total number of closed sales divided by your total number of leads. For example, if you have 32 sales from your PPC and 162 PPC leads, your close rate for the month is 19.7%. The break-even point per lead takes some cross-team collaboration as well between your marketing and maybe accounting, as you have to know the cost per goods sold for that product or service. First, you will multiply your close rate times the average revenue per sale. then minus the cost of goods sold divided by your average leads per sale. Your average leads per sale is 100 divided by your close rate. So for example, if we have a 20% close rate and multiplying that by an average of revenue of $200 minus your $100 of cost of goods sold divided by 5, this gives you a $20 break-even point per lead. Now this might be kind of confusing, so to back into this, we can say that if you paid $20 for 5 leads, that would generate 1 sale. So take that $100 for generating the 1 sale, plus the $100 of your cost of goods sold, and in total it comes out to $200, which matches the same amount of revenue from that sale, therefore breaking even. After collecting large amounts of lead and sales data, you can really define the value of a lead and the sale from the customer lifetime value metric. This is often a harder metric to accurately measure because it typically takes a longer period of time to gather this data. To calculate it though, you'll need to multiply your average value of a sale by the average number of repeated sales per customer, and then multiplied by your average retention rate. So for example, if your average revenue per sale is $200 and you find on average that the typical customer will have 6 repeated sales, and you know that you have a 95% retention rate, your customer lifetime value is 1,140. So this will also, like I said, help you define the value of a brand new customer and allow you to sort of work through some of these other metrics and goals to properly calculate your cost per lead goal. And lastly, and most importantly, is your return on ad spend. Really, what you want to know is your PPC campaigns profitable? With accurate lead tracking, you can determine your return on ad spend or your return on investment by taking your total revenue from PPC divided by your ad spend. For example, you may have generated $15,550 in revenue last month and spent $2,800. This would give you a 555% return on ad spend. Another way to look at this is that for every $1 you spend in PPC, you generated $5.55 in revenue. Now we're going to talk about how to actually track leads to be able to accurately measure all the metrics we just covered. It starts with lead forms and the fields you require to be filled out, as well as hidden form fields. These will be used with URL parameters, CRM integrations, and this can even help you even if you're just using a spreadsheet to manage your leads. I assume most of you are familiar with form fields. Maybe you have a free quote or consultation form, or maybe you have a piece of content that you gated, like a free guide or webinar, that just asks a few simple questions. For optimization purposes, we recommend that you use at least the least amount of information that your sales team needs, such as name, contact information, and maybe location. And then from there, you can add other form fields to better qualify your leads. Maybe asking them the timeline of when they were looking to install a solar panel on their home. Or if you're selling software as a service, you may want to know what other softwares are using that you may or may not have integrations for, just so you have a little bit more background information on that lead coming in. The next are hidden form fields, which help gather data about who and where your leads come from. Examples of hidden form fields are things like device type, source of traffic, or landing page. And depending on your form, there are many different ways this can be done. If you're using a simple contact form plugin, it may or may not have settings to include hidden form fields, like the example on the right-hand side. Otherwise, you can have hidden form fields be manually coded into your form, or if you're currently using a CRM like HubSpot, you can use their landing pages to integrate with their forms and then with your lead data. Lastly, if you're using PPC dedicated landing pages, check with your party or provider for third-party integrations to your CRM. Or what you can do is use custom CRM integration software like Zapier, which works with a lot of different PPC landing page providers to integrate with CRMs that are maybe not as common as an Infusionsoft or HubSpot or something like that. Next is URL parameters, and what that is URL parameters append specific information to your URL to be captured through hidden form fields, allowing you to get more information without having the visitor actually fill out these form fields. So some ideas of what you want to track would be PPC-specific information such as keywords, ads, and campaigns. This will help you make decisions like keyword bidding that will directly affect your revenue. So here's an example of a URL with parameters at the end, specifically for AdWords. And what this does is it can dynamically pull where the source of that traffic is coming from. So in this case, it's AdWords. The medium, which is cost per click, and then the campaign type. So for this one, it was a webinar campaign. You can also, like I said, pull things like ad content or keywords and really get specific in some of the messaging or some of the keyword targeting. Other information would be things like device or landing page. And then also the link here at the bottom is a resource from Google that sort of helps you build a URL parameter specific to Google Analytics. So you can accurately track in Google Analytics from, again, where and who your leads are coming from. Lastly, you can manually track your leads to revenue through simple spreadsheets. With hidden form fields, you can determine which leads came from PPC and other information such as keyword and device. With some cross-team collaboration, you can match the lead data with your sales data. As you can tell, the name and email are the same, but the columns are different as each team, the marketing team and the sales team, are interested in different information about that lead. So here you can see that 3 of the PPC leads turn into sales. This is really the most basic way to track your leads while still being accurate. And although it's manual, this process still works and still can improve your campaign significantly. So for example here, we see that these 3 leads actually turn into sales, and with enough data, you can start analyzing the trends, maybe by keyword or device or zip code, and really help you optimize your PPC campaigns or even your sales process later in the future. And that's something we'll be talking about in just a little bit. So now that we know how to track leads, we're going to be going over ways that you can use that data to make better decisions to increase your revenue and ROI. So here's a list of some of the ways you can segment your data to analyze and optimize. And this is really based on some of the information you pull from your form fields or your hidden form fields, or maybe even questions that you follow up with in your sales process. We're not going to cover all of these segmentations, but this list here can be done for pretty much any type of business. And then to go further, think about what makes sense to your business to segment your lead data by. And that's really going to be specific to your industry and your offerings, and really be able to determine what is the differentiating factor and what causes somebody to actually purchase or not. So landing pages are a great segmentation as it allows you to test the messaging on your site and see what messaging turns into sales. It can also help you to detect issues in your sales team's language if maybe it doesn't match the copy from the landing page. In this example, we segmented data between a benefit-focused copy landing page and a page that creates a sense of urgency like, only a few spots left, sign up now. As you can see, the benefit-focused landing page has a much higher close rate, but it also has a lower average revenue per sale. Now, this could be for a number of different reasons, and this is something that you'll have to work through with your sales team and further analyzation. But for example, maybe the second landing page creates a false sense of urgency because the sales team language doesn't match that sense of urgency. Another hypothesis you could come to from this example is that it's also possible that the people who closed from the sense of urgency landing page felt that they were in urgent need to begin with, causing a larger revenue per sale. For example, was losing their health insurance coverage. You know, this might be something that they need and something that they're willing to spend more money on. The next segmentation example is location by zip code. This is something that can lead to dramatic increases in your business. In this example, assume the business is maybe a plumber. Leads from zip code 1 closes at the lowest rate, but has the highest average revenue per sale. Now, zip code 2 has the highest close rate, but the lowest average revenue per sale. Again, this could be several reasons of why this is, but this could easily be something based on demographics in the zip codes, or the types of plumbing issues some of these have, some of these homes have between zip codes, or maybe it has to do with the location in relation to the plumber. Whereas leads that convert at a lower rate, maybe because of the time to dispatch and actually have an appointment is a longer time period because they're farther away. So maybe those leads don't typically close because they're looking for more of an immediate service. And then in that example for zip code 1, maybe it's an area where the plumbing has a lot more issues and causes a lot more work, resulting in a higher average revenue per sale. And finally, we're going to cover a case study that we put together for a client here at Vertical Measures using some of the same techniques and metrics that we covered so far. A little background on the client. They're a home project contractors whose sales cycle is typically between 2 and 3 weeks. The main steps for a lead are from the form completion, then they get a sales follow-up call, and then a home inspection with a quote, and then the actual purchase or not. So for this client, we analyzed their lead data by segmenting a few ways and didn't really find any trends that we can point out as strengths or weaknesses until we really looked at how close rate was affected by day of the week. And this is the day of the week that the lead had completed the form. So here's the data that we put together for the day of the week analysis. As you can see, the lowest close rates were on Saturdays and Sundays. Because of that, we grouped the data into 2 segments, weekends and weekdays. When doing this, weekdays had a 93% higher close rate than weekends. And this could be for a variety of reasons, from how the sales team follows up on leads from weekends to the possibility that leads that come in over the weekend likely had more time to check out more competitors, increasing the competition to convert that lead into a sale. Whereas maybe during the week they only have time to fill out a quote for maybe 1 or 2 competitors and get that sales follow-up call from only 1, and then they end up closing with that competitor. Whereas maybe on the weekends they fill out 5 or 6 and have a lot more sales follow-up calls from the different competitors and have a lot more options to choose from. So here's some PPC data related to the client. And this is one thing to keep in mind, as the weekday leads are also much more cost-effective to generate. before knowing the answer, we wanted to see how and what the possibilities were to increase the revenue in some way to help strategize the best overall outcome. Our ideas were either figure out why leads close at a lower rate on the weekends and fix it, and then assume the team can get the weekend close rates at 22%, or we allocate the ad spend from the weekends to weekdays. First, we looked at the revenue potential as if the sales team could get their close rate to 22% on the weekends. With that assumption, weekend sales would increase by a total of 7, generate an extra $320,000 in revenue, and have a overall 6% increase in revenue. So again, as you can see through here, we just took the weekend, same number of leads, the same cost per lead, same ad spend, and really just increased that close rate to 22%, which generated 15 sales instead of 8. Next, we looked at how we could increase if we took all the ad spend from the weekend, the $12,390, and allocate it to the more cost-effective, high closing rate weekday leads. With the extra $12,390 in ad spend during the weekdays, assuming everything else is constant, that would generate 97 more leads over the year and generate 28 more sales. This would make the client an extra $1 million in revenue, and that is how you can increase revenue by 21%. So just to walk through this again, if we eliminated the weekend spend and allocated it all to weekdays, the number of leads would be 726 leads, and the ad spend would still be the same in total at 53,756, and the close rate would be the same as the typical weekday close rate at 22%, and then the sales would increase to 157 sales, which is an increase of 28 total sales, and that gets you that 21% revenue increase. And this is what we're working on with a client currently to help increase that revenue. Now, after we sort of talked about this, we also found that in the previous example about if we can get the sales team to improve their close rate on the weekends, we can also increase their revenue there. And after talking with them, we found some inefficiencies in their sales process that they're also working on to increase their revenue. So what you can take away from this is the importance of accurate PPC tracking of leads to sales. Then the top metrics to know and know how to measure them. Then how to track the PPC lead through the life cycle, from search query with URL parameters to the hidden form fields and then into your CRM or your spreadsheet. And then over 7 ways to analyze your lead data to be able to optimize and improve your revenue and your ROI. And that's it for what I have today. And just before we get into the questions, I wanted to just throw out that we are currently at Vertical Measures offering a free PPC audit to help identify areas of wasted ad spend, to look at the overall health of your campaigns, make recommendations for optimization or organization, and then identify opportunities for growth. So if you're interested in a free PPC audit, you can contact us, or you can click the link once you get the slide deck and fill out and sign up for a free PPC audit. I want to thank you again, and if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask those now.
Awesome, Keegan. Thank you so much. I love those case studies you provided. I'm going to be probably picking your brain on those a little bit later. So we have a couple of questions. The first one's from Jennifer. She asked, if you had to pick one of the most important metrics to focus on that you mentioned, which one would it be?
That is a great question, Jennifer. And, all of them are definitely important, and they all they all really matter to create the other metrics and the other goals. But when it really comes down to it, your return on ad spend or your ROI for PPC is really the most important to know. You kind of need the other metrics to get there, but if you know that your PPC campaigns are profitable and it has the return on ad spend that you were looking for, that's the most important thing, and really everything else is kind of secondary to that.
Awesome. Then we had a question from Amy on another metric question. So she asked, to calculate close rates, are you looking at leads and closes that occurred in the same month, or do you take into account the length of the buying cycle?
You know, that is a great question, and this is something that we work with clients a lot on. And to answer your question quickly, we definitely take that in consideration. Some clients may have a 6-month time period of a sales cycle, and maybe we've only been working with them for a year, and you know, they're seeing that it's only half as profitable as they wanted it to, and then we sort of have to work with their sales team and the clients to kind of point out, hey, look, you have a 6-month life cycle for a sale. So really taking these 6 months of ad spend and lead generation, you can't really count those right now until another 6 months down the road when those leads start to become an actual sale.
Gotcha. And then a question that I actually had too is about, you mentioned a lot about working together as the marketing team or the PPC team and then the sales team. So Jeannie had asked, how can a PPC expert position or work issues when there are inefficiencies in the sales follow-up and the landing pages when there is little or delayed response with those teams? So I think really the question just comes down to how, like, what exactly do you do to help out the connection between the two departments?
Yeah, and I think the data really explains it all. And obviously, you know, if your teams aren't really working together currently, you might not have that data. But using just examples like we covered today to sort of express the importance of the lead tracking, and I mean, between the marketing and the sales team, it really should be a combined effort, as obviously the more that the marketing team knows and the sales team knows, and the more that they collaborate, obviously it's going to be a better result for everyone. And again, it just really comes down to the importance and what the data is saying, and where the inefficiencies come from, whether that's you know, bad keyword targeting or maybe bad follow-up time on a sales call.
And then Keegan, this is a question, well, it was actually a comment from Brett, but I think it lends itself to a question. He asked, if you calculate ROI and or the lifetime value using revenue rather than profit, you will absolutely go broke. So do you have any experience with that? Because I know oftentimes the profit kind of comes maybe later after the PPC team, sales team is involved. So do you have any experience with that with clients, or could speak to revenue versus profit with that metric?
So yeah, and that's what I meant when I said before the formulas, that you know, these are definitely just some of the more basic formulas to calculate some of these metrics, and that's one that we work with as well to really define a goal. So you know, when we create a goal to optimize these PPC campaigns for like a return on ad spend, for example, you know. We sort of take the customer lifetime value and the profit from a sale into account when we create that goal. So we don't just want you know, a 200% return on ad spend, because you know, there's definitely cost of goods sold in there. There's other marketing costs and things like that. So we take that all into account. We create a goal of maybe 500% return on ad spend to make sure that we include everything and make sure that it's actually profitable and not just breaking even or just at least covering your advertising spend. And then when you actually get that lifetime customer value, you can better define that that return on ad spend for a closed sale.
Great. And then to kind of close this out, this is a question I can help with is we got a question of, do you have a resource for tying PPC keywords to conversion metrics? We are pulling together a resource actually next week. It should be out. We have a guide, I think it's like 5 pages or so, about metrics and following this process that Keegan really laid out today. And we'll also have a blog post. So we'll follow up with everyone just to give you some more resources on that. The second part of the question was, Keegan, are you tracking leads through different phone numbers? And can you speak to kind of how that works?
Yeah, so I didn't mention this, but in the case study that we had at the end there, those leads also included leads from phone calls. So we track phone call leads for almost all of our clients, either through Google AdWords or through a third party like If by Phone. And we also, you can segment that data as well, seeing if the people who call are more likely to close to a sale than maybe if somebody who fills out a form on your page. And the assumption there is, maybe the person who calls your business is looking for more of an immediate answer, an immediate sale, rather than somebody who's just trying to get more information by filling out a form. So yeah, definitely that is something to take in consideration when looking at leads.
Great. So thank you, Keegan. I think that's all the questions we have today in time, but thanks for giving us all this information, and we'll make sure to send out the recording, both the video recording and the slides to everyone tomorrow morning, so you will be able to review, and then we'll also follow up with the resources next week. And we do these webinars every month. Next month's going to be a content marketing topic with Noelle Shuck. She's our director of content marketing, and she'll be talking on how to work with content creators without being an editing jerk. So that should be pretty fun. So thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Keegan. We really appreciate you being here with us this afternoon. So everyone have a good day.
Thank you guys.
Bye.